What would you do if at your husband's funeral, a woman showed up with his other children, and she only lived 10 minutes away? This is the story of Ruby Johnson, a widow, a mother, and a woman who thought she knew everything about the man she loved, until the day she buried him. The funeral guest. They say the worst part of a funeral is the silence, but that's not always true. Sometimes it's the secrets. This is the story of Ruby Johnson. She's 54, a widow from St. Lucia. Strong, smart. She'd been married to Samuel for 30 years. They had 2 grown children, David and Alana. Solid family, regular life. Samuel died suddenly. Heart attack behind the wheel. No warning. One minute he was changing spark plugs. The next he was gone. The funeral was held on a gray Thursday morning in one of those hilltop cemeteries where the sea peeks through the trees. The whole town showed up. Sam was a well-liked man, mechanic, domino player, Marvin Gaye fan, a real old-school gentleman. But Ruby noticed her, this woman, standing quietly near the back of the church. Youngish, maybe late 30s, slim, neat, not dressed for mourning, no tears, no trembling hands. She wasn't alone. She had 2 teenagers with her, a boy with Sam's jawline, a girl with Sam's exact eyes. After the burial, Ruby opened her home to the mourners, as custom goes. Plates were passed, prayers were shared, and then the woman walked in, calm, direct. She looked Ruby in the eye and said, "I'm sorry for your loss. My name's Marcia. Those are Sam's children." Alana froze. David blinked like he'd forgotten how. "Ruby?" She dropped the tray she was holding. Macaroni pie hit the floor. People stopped chewing. She looked Marcia up and down. "Sam's what?" Marcia didn't blink. "His children. Liam and Josie. We live in La Toc." La Toc. That's 10 minutes away from Ruby's house. 10 minutes. Turns out, Sam had a whole second family. Not in another country, not in secret trips. Right there on the same island. Ruby didn't scream. She walked into her bedroom, locked the door, and cried for hours. The next few days were chaos. David was angry. He blamed Ruby for not knowing about it. Alana didn't say much. She just kept staring at old pictures like they might explain something. Eventually, Ruby needed answers. A few days later, Ruby took a short walk to Marcia's house. Marcia cautiously opened the door, not quite sure what to expect. It was clean and simple, the kind of place where shoes are always by the door. On the walls, pictures of Sam, birthday cards, Father's Day gifts. "He told me you were his cousin," Marcia said. "I didn't know he was married. I loved him too." Ruby looked at her bewildered and hurt. Months later, the will was read. Not a word about Marcia, nothing for Liam or Josie. Samuel left everything to Ruby and the 2 children they'd raised together. Then came the envelope. No stamp, just her name. Inside was a letter from Sam, written the week before he died. He said he always planned to tell the truth, but couldn't find the moment. From his grave, he told Ruby in the letter that Ruby was his home, but Marcia had become a habit, that he was ashamed. Ruby didn't know what to feel. Numb. A few weeks later, Ruby did something no one expected. She invited them all, Marcia, Liam, Josie, Alana, to her house for Sunday lunch. David refused, said he wasn't ready. The rest came. It was awkward, tense. Josie barely spoke. Liam helped with the dishes. Alana watched everything like she was trying to decide if she could forgive the air around her. Ruby stood and said something simple. "Let's do this again next Sunday. Josie, bring that Marvin Gaye playlist." Something shifted in Ruby. She started to understand something. Samuel was dead, but the lies he left behind weren't. They were sitting on her couch, passing the salt, breathing, and sometimes the only way out of betrayal is straight through it. Thank you for holding space for this story today. If you stayed to the end, thank you. Grief is hard enough, but grieving a lie, that's a whole different pain. Ruby didn't just bury her husband, she buried the life she thought she had. What would you have done if you were Ruby? Would you have invited them in or shut the door for good? Let me know in the comments. More stories coming soon, real, raw, and unforgettable.